Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're back at Mine Motte, exploring some new sections of the cave. They are all mapped out, however we are unfamiliar with them, so to us it feels like we're exploring. Starting out, we are heading down to the third T. According to this map, again, that was made by somebody who originally explored it, we're at about 1,400 feet in. We're going to head down that tunnel. Looks like it goes south for quite a ways. It is dark. It was pretty good as far as visibility goes. Probably the best visibility I've ever seen at this mine. So that was working in our favor. The first 1,400 feet are pretty uneventful. We usually just head straight out to the third T, or continue from there and head into the east part of the mine, where we find a lot of tracks and tunnels and different debris that was left behind from the mining days. If you pause the map at the beginning of this video, you'll notice that there are two main sections to this mine. I've also done other videos about it and explained the two different entrances. They are fairly complex as far as navigation goes. This is a location where I would recommend you being very comfortable with your buoyancy, navigation skills, and obviously be cave trained, as it is an entirely overhead, dark, cold, and oftentimes not very good visibility type of environment. Please keep in mind that this video is not intended for training purposes. You cannot learn how to cave dive by watching someone else's videos. Rather, I hope this video serves as some sort of aid or resource for those who are cave trained and who want to plan dives at this location. It is, as I said, pretty complex and unforgiving. Having said that, now that we've gone down that south tunnel, we've reached this intersection here, which I believe is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2,100 feet. Again, it's already been explored and mapped out. However, the map doesn't provide a ton of detail as far as penetration links and of that sort. It is, however, pretty good at the depths and direction of the lines. So I do plan on taking a compass with me down at some point and checking some of those compass bearings at bare minimum, just to confirm that I am where I think I am. And in this video, as I go through it, you'll see more of those maps pop up. I'll explain where we are, what we're doing, and hopefully give you an idea of what is happening. Here, at this point in the dive, after making the left-hand turn at that T, our goal was to find the south tunnel that, as I've been told, has been explored out to about 5,000 feet or so. Unfortunately, we did not find it. However, as you'll see toward the end of this video, I believe I have been able to figure out which line it is and how to get there the next time we're there. So again, it's somewhat of an exploration for ourselves in just figuring out this line map and making heads or tails of it. So hopefully this helps someone, as I said, if you do plan on using it there. Please do keep in mind that we are on rebreathers, and we had quite a bit of open circuit bailout as well as DPVs. So these are not the easiest dives to accomplish, especially on the southern section of the mine, considering the depth of about 100 feet on average and the amount of distance that needs to be covered. Speaking of distance, we've reached this point here at the end of the line there that I'm estimating somewhere in the 2,500 foot range. It turns out to be a big open room with several large, very large ore carts. These ore carts are probably about the size of small cars, some of them anyway. What's really interesting about this room is just how big it is. Compared to a lot of other rooms I've seen in this mine, this one by far is much larger, wider, and taller. The other interesting thing is that you don't see these size of ore carts anywhere else that I've been. And I've been to most of the eastern section. What's interesting is this tunnel at the end, far back of this room, which only goes back about 75 feet or so. It's much lower to the ground than the tunnel that it took to get here, and obviously much smaller in size compared to the rest of the room. There are tracks going in there, but it doesn't lead anywhere, and it doesn't appear as if it was ever meant to lead anywhere. There is a possibility that they started digging it out and decided it wasn't a viable direction to be going in. The little bit that I do know about this type of mining that was done during this era is that they would drill exploratory holes, pull out samples, and then pick the best direction to continue digging. There is a good chance that there was just nothing more to excavate from here. Or another theory is that they just dug this out to park the carts in. Who knows? What is cool is that there's a lot of other items that were left behind in here, including a shovel, a couple shovels, and that workhorse you see there on the right. Pretty interesting to see that stuff that's been sitting there for a long period of time. Once we checked that area out, we headed back to the large ore carts where I parked my DPV and left the light behind, and we start heading back north out of that section back to that T that I mentioned earlier, where we end up taking that route to check out that side of the cave, still trying to figure out where this line that goes back 5,000 feet is located. Here we've communicated that we're heading out, and we head back again north up that tunnel. So you can see from the markings I put on that map, it took us about 2 minutes to get to that T, and then another 2 minutes from there to the other intersection. So 4 minutes total, estimating about 100 feet per minute on this dive, roughly 400 feet from that intersection down to the ore carts. We've swam a lot of this mine as well before getting DPVs, and the distances and times seem to check out, but however they are estimates, so take that with a grain of salt. It took us approximately 40 minutes or so to get back there on our DPVs. There's that intersection at 2,100 feet. And again, those are estimates, as I was saying. It took us about 40 minutes to get down to the ore carts, traveling at about 100 feet per minute. 2,500 feet should take you about 25 minutes if the math checks out. However, realistically, you're dropping cookies, you're dropping tanks, you are stopping and going multiple times, therefore it takes a little bit longer than what the math would suggest. In any case, keep that in mind. And if you're just watching this for entertainment value, I hope that you find this stuff interesting. So here, at that intersection at 2,100 feet, we decided to go up that tunnel. It is There's the intersection that is not in the map. But based off of the direction and the depth, I'm pretty convinced that that intersection is where I think it is. And we did go up into the 50-foot range and encountered this T that goes to the right, and the other one apparently goes or continues south. Because I am right-handed and statistically I'm going to choose to go right most of the time, that is what we ended up doing. This line here only went back 2 minutes from here. So from the 2100 foot section, it was about 2.5 minutes to that T, and then 2 minutes to this dead end right here. This room was also pretty interesting, though we did not stick around this one very long because we were reaching our maximum penetration time and we wanted to stick to that. So we ended up just turning around without looking around a whole lot. However, this is another fairly large room that just appeared to have piles and piles of debris. So like I mentioned, even though there's no line there just north of that 2400 foot marker, it appears there is another line there that isn't on the map. About 2 minutes after going up the tunnel, getting to about 50 feet, and then the dead end or the end of the line is about 2.5 minutes past that. So estimating another 4 to 450 feet after going up that tunnel. However, it's not where we were intending on going. Heading back to the deeper section, we noticed this on the wall that we didn't notice on the way in because it would have been behind us. Pretty cool to see and get some video of for those who may never make it back there. There's a cool rope that's been sitting there forever. So there's 52 feet where that marking is on the wall. Now we've continued past that 2100 foot intersection and continuing north back to the main east-west tunnels where I left one of my tanks. Part of the reason I left this video in is those tracks on the ground. There hasn't been anyone in this mine for quite a long time, and as you can see, those tracks are still there. So from that intersection back up to the main line, or 1400 feet, took us about 7 minutes, so about 700 feet. This was an awesome dive. We learned a lot from it. We gathered a lot of information that's going to help us for future dives, and I wanted to throw some of the things that we learned just in case it might help somebody who plans on diving there and wants to check out those sections of the cave. Again, please be trained, please know your limits, and for those of you who don't ever plan on doing this type of diving, I hope that this was of some value to you and it gave you an insight or a sneak peek into the type of diving that we as cave divers love to do. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.